A very good morning to everyone. On behalf of India FinTech Forum, I, Aditya, and I have Mr. Alexi Lane, the CEO of Everex, who has joined me to discuss the recent changes during the pandemic on his firm. For people not knowing, Mr. Alexi Lane is currently the CEO and founder of Everex.io. He's an MBA from University of Memphis, and he has been a serial entrepreneur and worked across the banking domain with the corporate sector such as Morgan Stanley. Currently, as the CEO, he handles the Everex platform, which develops blockchain-based payments and money transfer platforms based on blockchain technology such as smart contracts powered with the wallet. Hi, Alexi.
Thank you. Hi, my pleasure to be here. Thank you for such a nice introduction.
It's pleasure has always been us. Okay, so starting, I want to ask straight away that what was the vision behind venturing into Everex, given that blockchain-based solution is not generally easily incorporated?
Thank you. Yes, sure. That's a good question. Well, I started the blockchain development or blockchain journey back in 2014. And before that, I came from the capital markets and I also spent about 8 years in payment processing in industry, working on the acquiring side and the payment processor for the merchants. So I work with Visa, MasterCard. So I actually knew and know right now at this time the many problems that actually are not covered for the merchants when we're talking about receiving money, because the industry basically focuses on making better user experience for the cardholders, for the payers, but not for the recipients. And when the blockchain came about, I immediately thought, well, this is potential breakthrough technology that may help to solve this problem. So since the beginning, I wasn't on a Bitcoin or trading or this cryptocurrency thing. I was always thinking how we can apply blockchain technology to solve the real life problem, which is moving money faster, secure, and cheaper. So that was the background. That's why we jumped into the R&D. And like I said, we started quite early, 2015. Our first project was a digitization of gold on the blockchain. And after the pivot, we decided that, well, in order to trade something on blockchain, any kind of asset or value, your money must also be on the blockchain. You cannot exist in two different dimensions when the one value exists in one dimension and the money or the payment, they exist on the legacy platforms. So, and that's how we started into the what's now called stablecoin, the fiat currencies on the blockchain.
So going on the same line, do you think stablecoin will be a game changer ahead in the Ethereum space?
I am 1,000% believer. In fact, everything we do, I believe that's my vision because I saw it back in 2015. Everex was the first actual company who created and launched and actually used it in the real life use case, a fiat-backed stable coin, which is Thai baht. At that time, there was obviously other stable coins like a USDT or US dollar on the BitShares, but on Ethereum, there were none. We were the first. And not only we just creating it, because technically, it's not that difficult. You just create a smart contract and print as many coins as you want. So it's not a technical challenge. It's more the application of in the real life. And back in 2016, we actually run the first pilot where we tried the stable coin for the cross-border remittance between Thailand and the Myanmar. And we ran, I believe, about $20,000 in Thai baht coins using this technology. So I'm not only, I don't only think, I'm a true believer that stable coin is the only way of actually fixing the slow and kind of conservative or legacy payment system that we have today.
So given the regulatory challenges, especially in the mature markets such as US and Europe. Do you think this pandemic will enable the regulators to think in favor of decentralized finance, especially Ethereum-based stablecoins?
I don't think pandemic has anything to do with that. Unfortunately, regulation and innovation, these two words don't belong on the same page, because you cannot be innovator and do everything by the book, because the laws were written before you came out with the idea. So that is the biggest problems for any entrepreneurs, especially who deal in a regulated industry such as a fintech. So I wish I could be more positive, but honestly, I don't think so. I don't think that the regulators will use. In fact, it may actually get worse. And because the pandemic, the COVID, yeah, it limits the travel, so it may actually get worse. I hope not, but my personal opinion that it will not affect. And look, we just saw the collapse of the Wirecard, the gem of the European fintech market, who worked 10 years under the nose on the most strictest regulator, BaFin. And look what has, so question is, does it work? Does the more stringent the regulation work? I'm not sure. If there is no culture, you can write as many laws as you want. It just will not work. So it's hard for me to say, but it just puts more pressure and cost on innovators who try to solve these real problems in terms of more cost for compliance, more cost for licensing, regulation. So we need to spend like millions of dollars before even start testing the idea, which probably will not work. We need to do 1,000 different tests and approaches and running these things on a small scale before thinking how we're going to do about the regulation. Unfortunately, right now it's the opposite. You have to solve the regulation first, and then you can start experimenting. I see it as a just not working model.
So, during this unprecedented times of the pandemic, so what is the new normal for Everex? Has there been a significant changes in the transactions from the
Uh,
merchants or
no.
customers?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because we serve less cross-border transactions because people just stopped traveling. But in general, pandemic caught us in like a pivoting stage, because we spent a few years on trying to put our product and our technology for the cross-border money transfers, basically helping like migrant workers, solving the financial inclusion thing. But economics really doesn't work in this case. So because remittance and cross-border money transfers is a numbers game, because you're operating on very tiny margins. Really, you need to operate with the huge volumes, and where the huge volumes, just like I said before, that goes huge compliance costs. And at the end, you have to increase your fees because you have your costs. And at the end, you're becoming the same as the Western Union, because we have to charge that much to just at least to break even. So so we're pivoting right now into the more payment space, which I believe has much more potential. So we're wrapping up our technology, our product under Visa and MasterCard rails, because I believe that's where the user adoption comes. At the end, the blockchain adoption and payments that everyone anticipated didn't happen. Okay, it's still kind of complicated product, so we need to simplify it. And I believe that there is nothing better than to put this technology under Visa and MasterCard rails, because users familiar with that, and use it both for remittances and for online payments, helping the merchants of who I mentioned before in the beginning, to accept payments globally within 1 minute. And that's really could be a breakthrough product. So we did not see a lot of changes. We were online all the time. anyway, all the changes. So I wouldn't put a lot of yeah.
So talking about the consumer segments, one is merchants and other is tourist customers. What challenges do you face in acquiring these customers, especially in the marketing space?
Well, merchants are kind of different category. Basically, there's no problem because everyone, look, is the goal for any business, right? What you're starting the business, what's the first task you have? Your sales and the traction, and you need the users, right?
Yeah.
Users and sales, well, no question, right? But then you say, well, if I receive my payments faster, will it help my business? Absolutely, because if you get paid within the same day, you can do your salaries faster. You can pay your vendors, your suppliers, and everything. So faster settlements dramatically increase the speed of business, and not only for one business, pretty much is for the whole economy. And unfortunately, what we have, especially in the US, kind of long settlements. So US does not have a real-time payment system still. Um, and so I believe solving this problem would help a lot of, I mean, when I contact the merchants, I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, obviously, if you're running a store and I come to you and say, look, I offer you same-day settlements and low fee and no chargebacks, will you take it? I mean,
Sure.
who would say no,
Yeah.
right? For tourists, it's a different area, yes, basically, but we were not serving a tourist much anyway. Basically, our focus was more like on the migrant workers. At the same time, they don't travel that much, or even if they travel, just to one direction, home and the back. So um, I wouldn't say we had a lot of challenges, although, yeah, the marketing, yeah, it all goes down to the customer acquisition cost, which again adds to the bottom line.
Sure.
So yeah, this is the challenge here. How would you make your CAC efficient, customer acquisition cost?
So I want to know your views on increasing the financial inclusion using blockchain use cases.
I believe that's the only solution. And look, I'm saying this not because I'm some theoretic guy, academic guy. We did it. I mean, we run the focus groups. I know for sure I was in the fields. We spoke with the migrant workers. I believe blockchain technology and stablecoin is the only way who can help them. Because look, it's been tried before. I mean, we saw it last maybe 5-7 years. Different companies came about, but they all had to use have to use the pre-funding, this legacy payment rails, which it doesn't work. It's just slow and expensive. The one of the advantages of using blockchain and stablecoin, because the MTO, your money transfer or organization, doesn't have to pre-fund anymore. Because if you are an MTO and you were, let's say, in the US and your markets are India, Philippines, Indonesia, whatever, you have to pre-fund their market before to initiate the transaction. With the stable coins, you don't have to, because you're just converting your fiat currencies on ramp market to stable coin, which is liquid. If we're talking about Tether, we're talking about what, $11 billion now in the market. You can buy and sell Tether anywhere in the world at a very competitive rates. So you can settle with USDT or USDC, a second largest stable coin, just like banks do for their interbanking settlements. Only instead of using SWIFT, we can use stable coins, which is faster. We're talking about the minute settlement. And so absolutely, this will help not only with the remittance or financial inclusion, because look, financial inclusion is just sending money from A to B. Yes, it helps people, but it doesn't solve their problem, because we're still talking about huge cash economies in the markets like Middle East, Asia. It's all cash based, so they cannot build the credit, they cannot borrow. I mean, it's good that they can get the money faster, but if at the end it's still cash, we're not solving anything. We
Sure.
should put it on more electronic rails and then add more services to it: deposits, savings, gold trading, insurance, whatever is out there. And it should be built also using stable coins.
So, what are your future plans for Everex? What do you think will be like the next big breakthrough for?
Like I mentioned before, yeah, I believe the product we work on, it's a stable coin backed GPR card. GPR stands for Global Purpose Reloadable Card. So I believe, so we basically combining, I would say, best out of two different worlds. We take the best out of Visa MasterCard, which is card issuance and 1 second authorization, and merging it with the best from the blockchain, which is a settlement, which is a 1 minute settlement on Ethereum.
Okay.
So combining these two together, I believe we can create a truly revolutionary product. Because again, we're solving the user adoption on the front end, and we're solving the settlement problem on the back end for the recipient end. So hypothetically, you can have a merchant account and receive Visa and MasterCards anywhere in the world, because now it doesn't matter what region are you in, are you based in.
Mhm.
And at the same time, card-to-card payments will be absolutely the same as you would do now from address to address. The problem is that today, if you're sending from like Ethereum or stablecoin from one Ethereum wallet to another, it's just complicated for the average user. It's too difficult. But if we remove all of this and clock it under the known 16-digit Visa or MasterCard, I believe that will solve the user adoption problem. So we move everything on the back end and let the users use a simple product. They may not even know it's a blockchain or a stable coin. They don't need even to know unless they want to. That's what we're working on right now. And the challenge is that we have to work with the issuing banks. So again, it's a regulations, it's a licensing, a lot of work on the back end to make this happen. And again, what I mentioned before, yes, it's an innovation, and I don't know if this will work. It should, but we have to invest a lot just to give it a try. You know, unlike in e-commerce, you're launching your shop or you're testing the hypothesis. It usually takes 2 weeks for you to test your idea if it's in a non-regulated industry. But in the fintech, that's a different game.
So, lastly, I want to ask, what message would you like to give other entrepreneurs like you, especially in the fintech space, during this time?
Oh boy. Right now, I would give a serious consideration whether a young entrepreneur want to go to fintech. Really, because look, we operating on a much lower margins than everybody else. We are operating in a tighter regulated space where unfortunately our counterparts like regulators and bankers, they don't know what you're talking about in maybe half all of the cases. And this is critical because if you're not on the same page, if you cannot, if you tell something but the other party just don't understand or don't know what you're talking about, you can't reach any kind of agreement.
Sure.
And so and we've been through, we talk with many regulators and the bankers, and their level of thinking is different. And I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's normal. I'm not like accusing anybody, but so it's really tough to get into the space. So I would give a lot of like advice and to give it into consideration over like other industries like AI, VR, biotech, food tech, education. However, again, the good point is that it doesn't matter which industry you go. The payments are everywhere. So even if you start AR, VR, you still need to make it accept the payment. So we're solving this problem for everyone. But no, it's a long ride. So I welcome, look, and if any entrepreneur wants or would like to, get some advice, I'll be happy to share our experience, and please feel free to reach me reach out to me. I'm everywhere on social media, on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help.
Sure. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Mr. Alex.
Pleasure all mine. Thank you so much, and loved being there. All the best.
Thank you for your valuable insights on, especially on stable coins and blockchain. And have a great week ahead.